Oh! Hey! Peter, watch out! Oh! 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 Ben, I'm in love with Mary Jane. I don't want to go. Peter, be strong. Be strong. Oh. Uncle Ben. I got no hands. I got no legs. I got no glasses. Hair. Oh my God, I'm younger. I got face. The face. Oh. Hello Spider-Man fans and welcome to the much delayed review of the 2012 reboot to the Spider-Man franchise, The Amazing Spider-Man. Fuck! Directed by Marc Webb. Get it? Lol, Marc Webb. His name's Webb. Oh fuck, God, this movie's gonna be a joke. Anyway, let's get this over with. So, the story of The Amazing Spider-Man is basically the same story we saw in the first movie with Sam Raimi, except it's a little bit different. I know that sounds contradictory, but bear with me. So, the general premise is that basically it centers around young Peter Parker, played this time by Andrew Garfield. He's at high school, he's sort of struggling to fit in, he's a bit of a recluse, he's a bit of a nerd. He doesn't quite fit in. He meets Gwen Stacy, they form a little bit of a romance, and one day he sneaks into the Oscorp genetics lab to find Dr. Kirk Connors to solve a mystery surrounding his parents, particularly his father, and he gets bitten by a radioactive spider and then becomes the superhero known as Spider-Man after the death of his uncle, to avenge him. And it goes on from there, really. He has to then solve the mystery of his parents and then try and stop Dr. Connors from turning New York into giant mutant lizards. And that is basically the plot of The Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, right. The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, this is a fucking disappointment. I'm not going to be beat about the bush here. I'm going to come straight out and say, I don't like this movie. I'm sorry. It's not very good. You know, I watched it just now. I mean, I haven't watched it for a while. Every time I've watched it, I mean, the first time I watched it in the cinema, I kind of didn't mind it. This time, you know, every time I've watched The Amazing Spider-Man since the first time, it's gone down and down in my opinion. I can't sit through it without getting bored. That's the biggest problem of this film. It's fucking boring. Nothing happens a lot of times. This movie is, you know, basically trying to be a darker version. Sorry about that. This movie is basically trying to be a darker version of the Sam Raimi film from 2002. There's so many similarities, like obviously the death of the uncle, you know, the oh, you know, that's not my problem line, which is done in the first film and now is done in this film, except it's not my policy. The romance stuff, you know, him discovering his powers. We've seen this all before. The movie's a fucking snail. It's a drag to sit through. You know, I nearly fell asleep during this movie. God's sake. I mean, there's barely any action sequences, and when the action sequences are there, they're pretty shit, to be honest. I mean, the only good action sequences you have in this movie are the school fight and the climax on the top of the tower. They're the only decent action sequences. The rest of the movie is a fucking slog to sit through. And, you know, the story is meh. It's nothing special. We've seen it before, and the whole plot with the lizard is just dumb. Like, I don't care about it. It's just dumb. The cast. Andrew Garfield, he's okay, I guess. For me, he's the weakest Spider-Man we've had so far. He basically... The thing is, with Andrew Garfield, he's way too good looking to play Peter Parker. He just is. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologise for that opinion. Because, you know, generally speaking, he's a good looking guy. You know, and he looks like a punk. Peter Parker's supposed to look like a nerd, which Tobey Maguire had. He had the nerdy quality. He may not have had the quippiness of Spider-Man, but he looked it as Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield, he's a pretty decent Spider-Man. You know, he throws out some one-liners and he is pretty funny. But as Peter Parker, I just don't believe him. I just don't believe him for 1 second. And he tries way too hard to be the awkward nerd. You know, like with the twitching and all of the lines, like the like all the stuttering. You know, he tries way too hard with that. And it just gets annoying after a while. But there we go. Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. She's probably the best performance of the movie. I mean, you know, and she has good chemistry with Andrew Garfield, of course, as they were sort of dating in real life, so that helps. Rhys Ifans as the Lizard. He's okay. I'm not compelled by his story whatsoever, and we don't really find out too much about his character, other than that he wants his arm back, and he knows something about Peter's parents that he's not telling him. But other than that, he's just kind of there. He's just kind of in there. I mean, ultimately, I didn't really give a fuck about him, to be honest. You've got... Who else have you got? You've got Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I don't know. Like, there's just no chemistry with them. Like, Sally Field and... Is it Martin Sheen? Yeah, they're all right, but I didn't get the warm, lovingness of Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris from the Sam Raimi trilogy. I just got two, you know, replacements who were just kind of meh. Yeah, you know, they're all right. Meh, meh. The whole plot regarding Peter's parents, we don't need that. I mean, the Sam Raimi trilogy never addressed Peter's parents, and it benefited from that. You know, or if you absolutely had to do it, if you had to address Peter's parents, then actually address it. Don't just leave it in there and drop hints, you know, actually explore it further. But no! The movie decides to waste its time, you know, fumbling around with Peter, discovering his powers, which we've already seen in the Sam Raimi movie from the 10 years before this. I mean, visually, the movie's nice. In terms of the CGI, but the problem with The Amazing Spider-Man is that it's basically trying to copy The Dark Knight. It is, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologise for that opinion, because I do believe that's what it's doing. And, you know, the tone is so dark that they've sucked the fun out of it. So even the romance and all of the sort of comedy can't act as light relief, because I just feel kind of down and just kind of disinterested watching this movie. The movie makes me feel depressed and not compelled to watch it. Like, I mean, the emotional drama is all right. I mean, the death of Uncle Ben was poorly handled here. Like, it was so abrupt. I mean, I think it was more powerful in the original that you didn't actually see him get shot, or at least not until Spider-Man 3 when they showed it in the flashback. But he was just there, lying there, and it was a nice scene. But this, whilst it's shocking, it doesn't have the same impact. And, you know, the movie, it just drags. It just drags and drags and drags. There's a lot of filler. It takes a fucking ages for it to get going. It's basically a whole hour before we even see Spider-Man. That is ridiculous. This movie is 2 hours 16 minutes long, and it takes an hour to even get to Spider-Man. The first hour is a fucking drag. I mean, the whole movie is a drag, but the first hour is easily the worst to sit through because there's so much filler. There's so much unnecessary padding. You could at least cut 15 minutes out of this movie. It should have been 2 hours, not 2 hours 16 minutes. Oh, I don't know. I mean, yeah. What can I say? The script is not very good. It's basically a marketing campaign. You know, Sony are basically sticking their oars in with these films, with these two new films. For me, this movie has no heart. Even though it tries to have emotional drama, which it does, but it doesn't hit because the tone of the movie is so dark and dreary and depressing that you just don't care anymore. Like, at least the Sam Raimi trilogy, even the third one, despite it being bloated, at least it had a heart, it had charm, and it had characters you cared about. You don't care about any of the characters in this movie, not even Peter. I guess Gwen might be the exception, but even so. And the direction by Marc Webb is just sloppy. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, I think the studio have also interfered in his in the project as well, so it's not completely his fault, but even so, let's be honest, he was basically hired because his last name was Webb. Let's be honest. And it would attract more people to watch the movie, but hey-ho. But there are some good things, I guess. The music score, I do like, by James Horner. He does produce a good music score, and there's the great theme, the da 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 da. You know, that's nice. The crane scene, which is very good when Spider-Man has to go, get his way to the Oscorp Tower. Like I said, the action and the action towards the end is good. Although the action towards the first two acts is just terrible. The Stan Lee cameo is funny. Then you've got the production design. I guess the production design is quite good. I mean, the scene on the subway train was good as well. I like that. But for me, it's a movie that has nothing standing out. It's completely unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to the Spider-Man films. And it serves as a boring, pointless retelling of a story that we've seen done better 10 years before this. Ugh, I don't know. Yeah. And, the whole problem with the Amazing Spider-Man series is also the fact that they're trying to set up this Sinister Six universe, which never happened, thank God, after the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But it's not so bad in this movie, but it's more in the next film that it becomes a problem. The movie is just nothing. It's just basically nothing. It's neither abysmal nor is it fantastic. It is just nothing. It's so easy to disregard it. It's so forgettable. And, the plot is not compelling. The characters aren't compelling. Nothing really works in this movie other than the music, production design, Gwen Stacy, as Emma Stone's performance, and some of the action. And the CGI is good. Other than that, terrible film. The pacing is piss poor. It's a drag to sit through. I struggle to watch it. I don't think I could ever watch it again, actually. It's that much of a struggle. And also Andrew Garfield can get irritating in his performance as Peter, but as Spider-Man he's good. Actually, the car thief scene is good. I do like the car thief scene. That was funny. But beyond that, there's nothing that stands out in this movie. So, yeah, I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man a 4 out of 10. Yeah. I know, right? Disappointing. It just falls apart. It really does fall apart. So, yeah. But that's it for my review of The Amazing Spider-Man, folks. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please put your comments down below and let me know. Tune in next time when I review The Amazing Spider-Man 2, as we edge very closer to Spider-Man Homecoming. So, until then, thank you guys all for watching. And as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.